and we'll go into public session. And just a reminder to everyone, this public session will be recorded and made available, of course, on the website. So we'll start off with general business. As I said, Chris is away, but he wishes everyone a belated New Year's and can't wait to show off his new office here to everyone. It's absolutely gorgeous. You'll be very happy with it. We do have some minutes to approve, and they're from last October. They were circulated. I'm sure you don't remember them, but I do need to formally approve them. Can I have someone move and second the minutes from October? David? And David moves, yes. And a seconder?
I'll second it.
Chance of a lifetime. Matthew? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thanks. Adopt? All in favor? No opposed. Okay. Okay, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest today? We only have the one item, but anyone have a conflict? No? Okay, seeing none. Over to Leon, who's going to do some updates. And I have to mention, when Lee and I were chatting before, you've all seen, all right, maybe you've all seen the latest Waterfront Toronto newsletter. And I asked Leon, when is the water going to start flowing in the new Don River? He said, today. So today. So this is momentous. So Leon, let's do the updates.
Yes, yeah. I have a quick update. I have a slide for that later coming up. But Paul's right today.
Sorry, Marie.
Go down there and celebrate.
No, apparently it's just going to be a little trickle. I said to Leon, I hope somebody's there with a camera, even if it's a little trickle. I want to get that recorded, you know. And someone will be there. So yeah.
I think our team has documentation.
I'm sure
ready.
Yeah.
We'll probably have a time lapse, a video, but I think it will be very slow.
Yeah.
It'll take a couple of weeks for this first stage of flooding. But hopefully in February we'll have some new photos to show everyone, and it's so mild, so it's quite it's quite nice to just walk around there and see how the program.
Spring is coming early, so go ahead, Leon. Let's walk through.
Paul, would you like to start us off here, and then
slide over? Yeah. I'll just read our formal acknowledgement. Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that the land upon which we're undertaking our revitalization efforts part of the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. In addition, Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that Toronto historically been a gathering place for many Indigenous people, including Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So we only have one item today, pretty straightforward agenda. I'll start to give a quick update on the previous reviews, two items that came for review. Quayside infrastructure and public realm from Quay East, including Quay East from Bonnycastle to Street A, detailed design. So we gave this project full support. Waterfront Toronto is currently reviewing the 60% design drawing submitted by the design team after our review in December. We are continuing to coordinate with QILP on the private development portion of the site and all of the various thresholds between the public realm and the buildings and the community forests. And that project is scheduled to return to our DRP next month. The QIPR team is also in the process of engaging the Indigenous community, and the feedback will help further develop ideas around the storytelling elements in the public realm. And we are targeting 90% design drawings by the fall of this year. We also saw 153-185 Eastern Avenue schematic design. We have shared the consensus comments with the design team, and we are waiting for them to provide response. A quick update on PLFP construction. As many of you have probably heard or saw in person, Cherry Street North and the Commissioner Street bridges have opened. They were opened last week, marking a significant milestone in the overall PLFP project. So here's a photo of Cherry Street North bridges. The one on the east side, on the right of this image, is the transit bridge, and that one was first to arrive. The one on the left is a bridge that would carry vehicle, pedestrian, and cyclists. The Commissioner's Street Bridge also was opened last week. Here's a photo of it captured at night. This bridge is orange in color, differentiating itself from the two Cherry bridges. This is the longest of the two bridges with 2 arches. And the street here, Commissioner Street, has been widened to accommodate a dedicated transit right-of-way, and it also features unidirectional separate cycle lane on either side of the street. And as I noted at the start, here's a photo of the Cherry Street North. What's underneath the bridge is the River Valley plug on the west side. And as of today, our team is starting the flooding of the River Valley, and that process will take 2 to 4 weeks. And hopefully by next month, we will have some new images showing the river partially flooded for you to look at. And just looking ahead for next 2 months, for February, we have Quayside Master Plan returning a second time for their preliminary draft plan review. We also have West Donlands Block 13 on the schedule. Parliament Slip, which we can actually see from our office right here. It's coming back for schematic design. And we have a for information item, which is the Waterfront Toronto Accessibility Framework. For March, these items may change, but Villiers Island Density and Massing Study, which you have seen last year, is going to come back for another for information session. We are starting work on the McCleary District Precinct Plan, so we'll see that first time. And Keating Channel Pedestrian Bridge, we're finalizing the details with the finalists, sorry, not the finalists, with the winner for this project, and we'll see it for the first time as well. So that's it, Paul.
Okay, and just while that slide is up there, again, Leon and I, as I was getting a tour of our space here on the Parliament Slip activation, we're on the 3rd floor of this building, 251 Queens Quay East, but we have access to the penthouse on the roof. And we were thinking before we start our next meeting, we'll build in a little time to tour the office, but go up to the penthouse because you get a stunning view, not only of the water and the harbor, but of the Parliament Slip activation, and the new dock wall construction is started there. So maybe that would be a good way to hopefully get good weather and we can go up there. So thanks, Leon. That's great. Looks like we'll have 2 very full meetings in February and March. So let's now go to 396 Queens Quay. It's schematic design. Again, I remind you, it's only here once, I think, under this process. Asif Patel is, I believe, going to make an introduction to this. Are you there, Asif?
Yes, Asif is here. Joseph is here as well. I think the 3 of us will actually be co-presenting the intro slides. Okay. Just give me 1 second to make sure that the proponent team have arrived as well before we begin. So I see Les. Hello, Les. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Les.
Scott is here.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. Shazad. Okay, there you go. I see you. Awesome. Thank you. And I think we also have Ken Brooks will be joining us as well from Quadrangle.
Yep. You should be here.
Mm-hmm. I don't see him yet, but maybe I'm sure he is on his way. Perhaps we can begin with the intro, the staff intro first, because that will take roughly 10 minutes. So I will share my slides.
Okay, yep,
And, okay.
is Steve gonna kick it off?
I'm going to start
You wanna
off.
start it?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually.
All right,
Yep.
let's go through your slides.
Yep. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Leon. I am the Design Review Panel Manager with Waterfront Toronto. I will be introducing this project with two city staff. We have Asif Patel, Community Planner, on this call with us. We also have Joseph Luke, Senior Planner with Urban Design, City of Toronto with us. We also have the design team on the call with us. We have Les Klein, Principal with Quadrangle, Ken Brooks, Senior Associate with Quadrangle, Scott Torrance, Senior Director with FORAC, and of course we have Shizad Samji, Director of Development with Pacific Reach Properties with us as well. So the project is here for schematic design. The panel is should be pretty familiar with the site because we have previously reviewed the phase one of this project a couple of times. But just to remind you, the site is located just east of Spadina along Queens Quay. East of the site is the future Reese Park. Immediately west of the site is there is a private condo at the corner of Queens Quay and Spadina, and it is also where the TTC Spadina short turn takes place around the Queens Quay Loop. The site today is on the west end of this property. There is an existing above-grade parking garage in the purple highlighted area. And on the ground floor, there is a Shoppers Drug Mart currently. And Asif is going to give us more information on the project background. So over to you, Asif.
My apologies, I was on mute. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep, okay, perfect. So thanks, Don, for that introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. The project slide at the top right and on the first slide says 396 Queens Quay, but there are some elements of change that are being that are occurring on all the sites, which I'll get into when I speak a little bit more about the proposal. But for now, I wanted to start by giving just a brief introduction of the site itself. So the site's comprised of 4 parcels, which create a U-shaped corner lot that wraps around Peter Street Basin, which is a city-owned parkland. So all the way to the right, we have 350 Queens Quay West, which is shaded in blue, which is on the east end of the site, which is currently occupied by a 21-story mixed-use building. And there is an addition under construction, which was approved through what we're calling phase 1 of this development. Towards the central area of the site, shaded in green, we have 370 Queens Quay West, which is also under construction for a 20-story mixed-use building. And at 390 Queens Quay West, we have which is shaded in yellow, is an existing 21-story mixed-use building. And then we've also got 396, the 4th parcel, shaded in purple, which is an existing 5-story parkade with retail at grade and some office above. This is where the main tower component is occurring, but as you'll see in the forthcoming slides, there are some additions also proposed on site. Leon, if you don't mind moving to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. So there will be some more pictures in the applicant's presentation, but just to give you a quick street view of the existing conditions. So the picture on the top left shows the view of Queens Quay looking north, showing the south elevation at 396 Queens Quay. So you can see the parkade behind the Shoppers Drug Mart there. The bottom left picture is the north elevation. So looking at the northern facade, so looking south towards the water, you can see the rear of the parking structure, and then to the image on the right, which shows it from the corner, so you can see a little bit of the eastern elevation as well as the southern elevation of the building, just so you can get a little bit more sense of the context. If you could go to the next slide, please. So the application proposes, so the crux of this zoning bylaw amendment is for the area shaded in red here in the top image, which shows the proposed tower. So it's a 16-story residential tower above the existing 5-story parkade. The area is shaded in yellow on both the top and bottom drawing, or where the additions are to occur. So there's a 4-story addition from the 2nd to the 5th floor along the northern facade of 396 Queens Quay West. There's also a 4-story addition from the 3rd to the 6th floor along the southern facade of 396 Queens Quay West, and a 20-story addition from the 2nd to the 21st floor along 390 Queens Quay, all of which you can see highlighted in the top image. So the addition at the southern facade at 390 Queens Quay, that is to accommodate a new proposed hotel use. The addition at the bottom of the parkade at the rear of the building, that's to accommodate more parking, some mechanical elements, as well as some bike parking as well. And then the addition at the rear of 390 is to accommodate, I believe it's 2 extra units of apartments, as well as some laundry facilities within the building on each floor for 390 Queens Quay. And in the bottom image, you'll see the cantilever next to the Shoppers Drug Mart in red, which is being proposed to be demolished, which will expand the public realm area for the site, creating great opportunities for the future enhancement of the streetscape. And again, just showing you from the southern elevation, the yellow portion. So there'll be an addition that goes right over the Shoppers Drug Mart up until where the cantilever is being demolished. Furthermore, there are some interior modifications proposed to the floor plans at 350 and 390 Queens Quay, predominantly to allow for residential and the hotel use accommodation. So this is just to show you, looking from the water, looking north, this is just to show you what the tower would look like. It's outlined in red there. Yeah, and then just to give a status update on the application. So this application has been deemed complete. It has been through the public consultation process. The applicant's now working with staff to incorporate feedback from residents, staff, and agencies, and the policies, the city's policies. And at this time, staff are in support of the proposed built form that's being provided by the applicant, as it shows adequate separation from the 2 towers, both on the east and west side. Maintains appropriate heights. It staggers the building to create more privacy. So it just in general, staff are in support of this existing built form, and we're now working with the applicant to finalize outstanding comments that remain on the rezoning application. And we're starting to, as you can see in the chart here, we're in that yellow box where we're starting to prepare drafting our staff report so that we can take this to council in spring this year.
Thanks, Asif. So to remind everyone, the project, phase 1 of this project came to our panel for issues ID back in 2016, many years ago. And since then, it has appeared in front of our panel 3 more times for schematic design, looking at the buildings and the public realm. So today, we're not repeating issues ID. We are talking about this following phase at schematic design. And in the phase 1 design, our panel made various suggestions that were implemented. So in terms of the exterior of the building, we asked the team to further develop this facade strategy and try to address various issues, including how the building should read differently. It doesn't necessarily need to replicate the materials of the existing buildings. Have a good rationale for the pattern and motif of the overall facade. We supported individual small retail spaces at the podium. We also suggested that the mechanical penthouse should be integrated into built form, not as an add-on element. So in 2019, the design came back to the panel on the right over there. Also, there were some changes in the public realm, in the ground floor and site access. The panel encouraged the team to try to improve overall connectivity and visual porosity, noting the importance of connecting Lakeshore with the public realm of Queens Quay and Peter Slip Basin. The panel recommended a new at-grade north-south open-air passageway to help activate the public realm. The panel also recommended an east-west passageway to connect to the future Lees Park and encouraged the team to realize this connection when there is a change in retail tenancy. And as of today, the ground floor lease of some of those units have changed, and the team is successfully implementing the new east-west connection as part of the current design. In 2019, the last time we saw this project, the review focused on the public realm. There were also some minor updates on the design of the building. In particular, I want to note that the panel suggested, the north wall on the westernmost tower would be great to have an addition there to complete the development and encourage both the city and the proponent to pursue it in the future, especially when the parking garage becomes subject for development. So we are really seeing the follow-up conversation of that comment today. I'm going to pass it to Joseph here to wrap us up.
Thank you very much, Leon. Good afternoon, panel members. So today we would like the focus for the discussion to be in two specific areas. One is the building design. So for the building design area, we would like some consideration or recommendations for the general proposed tower massing and the general facade design of the building and how it integrates with the rest of the complex. And then we also would like to have the panel consider some of the building design elements. How does the building improve the connection of the ground floor interface between Queens Quay Boulevard? And also, how does the colonnade removal improve the public realm? In addition of the active uses of the hotel suites along the south side of the parking structure, and also how should the mechanical unit be integrated with the tower design? We've also wanted to talk about or have the panel consider the facade design proposal, especially the base building and the parking structure. How does the enhancement of those facades improve the quality of Queens Quay? And also the materiality of those cladding, how could it be improved? And also how can they be a part of the design language for the entire complex? Next slide, please, Leon.
Yeah.
And then other things such as the site plan application stage, what can be included in the submission in terms of the materiality of the public realm, sustainability and green infrastructure that should be considered for the application, and also improvements to the street frontages on Queens Quay and also on Lakeshore. The second area we would like the panel to opine on is the public realm. The landscape design and how it meets the Waterfront Toronto's objectives, including the interface with Lakeshore Boulevard and Queens Quay Boulevard, and also the pedestrian connections between the north-south pedestrian walkway and the TDC pedestrian loop, the TDC streetcar loop on the west-hand side, as well as the bicycle trail that runs along the north side of the site. And the extension of the Queens Quay Boulevard streetscape design into this area and how it wraps around the site is also something that we would like the panel to consider and opine on. And that's it from me.
Thanks, Joseph. So that concludes our introduction.
Okay, so thank you very much. Les, are you ready for presentation?
I am indeed, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, take it away.
Leon, do you want to share the screen, or Ken, do you want to share the screen?
I think Ken just joined.
Yes, great.
Hello, Ken. Ken, let me make you a presenter so you can share the PowerPoint.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start the clock when it's on.
Yeah.
But you know me well enough, Paul. I won't need all the time. So while we're waiting for the presentation, I should make a couple of introductory remarks. First and most notably, when one works in this city, one has the opportunity to see the city develop in front of one's eyes. And in this particular case, we really are seeing history unfold. I think some of you may remember, if you were at the very first presentation, that we presented the two original buildings, which we lovingly called the two ugly cousins of the three ugly sisters, which were legacies of Waterfront Corporation's initial attempts to bring residential down to the waterfront. And our clients, represented by Mr. Somji today, purchased those two buildings plus the low building that connected them with a vision to create a community that is based on rental housing, very unusual in those days. And my late partner, Brian Kurtner, had the opportunity to work with Shahzad and his team to reimagine the existing buildings. You may remember them, the color of the brick, and using some creative moves, essentially imposed upon those facades a cityscape, skyline, if you will. We also, of course, improved the interiors of the units, improved windows, and improved a number of other elements that made the Quay a desirable place to live. Thank you to the two previous presenters for giving you a bit of the history of how we got to where we are today. And we are very proud, I think, Shahzad, and we are very proud to say that the vision that we developed in conjunction with the City of Toronto's planning staff and with very strong and helpful input from the Waterfront Toronto Design Review Panel created a facade and massing treatment for the new addition which was approved, that added both to the healing of the cityscape as well as the extension of this notion of the skyline along both Queens Quay and the Gardiner Expressway. If you go to the next page, please. Ken? Nope. There we go. Okay. Again, so you've been introduced to the project. We look at the project as essentially 5 components. 370 being the new addition that we created initially, 350 and 390 being the 2 existing buildings. But in phase 1, we added an extension to the north end of 350 to create a continuous street wall along the north edge of the property. We are now approaching the next steps, which are 396 North, which is the 4th tower on the site, 396 South, which primarily involves healing the street along Queens Quay and creating a new pedestrian scaled facade and uses along that street, and a number of minor adjustments within the existing buildings. Next, please. So the overall massing, you can see it from this quite interesting aerial, essentially shows you the portion that's under construction and the proposed in white, with the 396 South addition to the front of the parking parkade and the new tower. Next, please. And this is a view from the northwest looking southeast, where you can see, in addition to the 396 South, you can also see the proposed addition to the north end of 390. Next, please. There is a strong rhythm of the buildings as they approach Queens Quay. And even looking at the building immediately to the west, there's a building that has a short edge on Queens Quay, which steps back and away, and then there's a large opening from a macro scale between those two towers, a very strong and very clear rhythm looking inwards, and of course maintaining those really important views to the lake. Next, please. We also are proposing, as I said, a set of suites, hotel suites, that will be added to the front of the parkade. And as was pointed out, we're also proposing to delete the existing arcade that currently hangs over a portion of Queens Quay to enhance the public realm further along that stretch of Queens Quay West. Next, please. So zooming in a little bit on the portion of the building that we're currently talking about, once again showing you in gray the existing footprint of 390 Queens Quay West, the footprint of the addition to the north end of that facade, the 396 tower, and we'll get into that a little bit more, as well as the footprint of 396 Queens Quay West. And the portion in red at the very bottom is the portion of the existing second-story overhang that is proposed to be removed to enhance the width and the equality of the public realm along that edge. As you can see, we do maintain a 20-meter separation between the two, the existing 390 and the new 396, as well as a generally 25-meter separation between the very, very closest point of the building to the southwest, and the very, very closest point of two small extensions of the mechanical area that extends down through the facade, which even there we maintain a 23-meter separation. So again, thank you to our friends at the city who have indicated that they're generally satisfied with this siting and approach to the site. Next, please. Next slide, please. So just quickly going through site circulation. Again, you've been introduced to most of this. The biggest challenge that we had in phase one was to create a viable, amenable pedestrian and vehicular realm along the north edge, because we don't have another point of access to the buildings from Queens Quay. They're quite far set back. But we've been able to do that and create that separation between vehicular and pedestrians, and also create much more permeability. Again, at the suggestion of the design review panel, as well as the urban design staff, we've been able to create a through access from the driveway south to the basin at the west end of 370. And again, through the incredible cooperation of our clients and their willingness to rework existing retail leases to create a pathway from underneath 350 to connect the water basin to Reese Park to the east. We've also worked very hard to enhance in this proposal the west edge of this driveway, which you'll see some images of later, and to in this way providing appropriate lobby spaces, loading and pickup areas that have a recognition of the primacy of pedestrian bicycling access in these areas. Next, please. In terms of bicycle circulation routes, we do have a dedicated pedestrian path immediately to the north of the property. We have to work our way around the TTC facilities that are immediately to the west. But again, we've been able to do all of that while creating a vibrant bicycle circulation area, which enhances and adds to the capacity of the bicycle system, very vibrant and very successful bicycle system along the south side of Queens Quay West. Next, please. Oh, I should just sorry before you go, I apologize. But just if you can go back one more. No, sorry. It's okay. Keep going. Keep going. I'll deal with it later. So this is the pedestrian access routes, and as you can see, I mentioned earlier a remarkable amount of permeability through the site for the public as well as, of course, for residents. And we've even made sure that in terms of creating safe areas, the asterisks designate areas where we created tabletops in the driveway to slow vehicular traffic and to provide safe passageways for the pedestrians through the site. Next, please. I'm going to pass it over to Scott Torrance, who will hopefully be able to introduce you to the landscape design for the development. Scott?
Thanks, Les. So an overview that's been quite well described, I think, previously, both staff, us here, but want to show kind of the connections as well. And really, as Les mentioned, especially along the north side, we really worked within a very constrained area. You know, we have the Gardner Expressway over top, but to create a front to this building and front to Lakeshore Boulevard West, which I think is really amazing consideration that's underway now, and you can see it, as Les has mentioned, it really is starting to heal the side of the site. So this gives an overview of the connection through the building, which was implemented, but also we colored it so you could see how we're implementing the central waterfront granite paving. Front of the building, south side of Queens Quay is around Peter Street base through the building as well. Next slide, please. So focusing on the discussion today, the west side, as we call it, or 396, we're continuing that paving, and we are looking to continue both the central waterfront paving on the south side and west, pedestrian connections, the tabletop to connections across the TTC, small TTC building, and the adjacent plaza around it. And through discussions with the city, I was asked to provide these granite paving connections. That's the sort of two lines that go across there to the TTC. It's required because also the existing ramp doesn't access straight through, so pedestrians would have to move around condition in both cases. Along the north side of the building in Lakeshore Boulevard West side, we've continuing the paving on the private lane that is being implemented in phase one. It's highlight fade out. We use a herringbone pattern on the driveway for resilience to vehicular turning, and then and those are 300 by 100 opal unilock pavers, and then 600 by 200 pavers on the side, the pedestrian blocks. So that same color, but just a slightly different little size. So one of the challenges I think that's from this site, as I mentioned, it's difficult to get more living things in the public. And we've tried to put those wherever we can, but we are really constrained in this site, both vehicular and pedestrian movement. So it is a focus on paving. We've put 2 street trees along the south side. I'll talk a little bit about why there's not a third. retain the existing street tree to the east by Pier Street basin. The existing rooftop as well doesn't allow a lot of loading, so an intensive green roof really isn't able to be planted up there, so it would be extensive. I think Les will talk a little bit more about green roofs on new, where they're located, new development. Next slide, please. Right, so this is the showing that we have a concrete encased hydro duct that's in the building existing. And so we really only have room to plant 2 large deciduous trees here. You can see the infrastructure we're providing the soil cells to provide the soil volume that they need. But to be able to provide a 3rd one is just not possible. We'd love to. Next slide, please. This shows you a section through the west side of the laneway, and we have a level grade crossing, but there is a small grade change along the north side to connect to both the new pedestrian sidewalk, as Les mentioned, and then a multi-use pathway, because as you may know, right now it's just a combined sidewalk there, and so this will really start to define these 2 separate spaces, and quite a generous space to really make this once again feel and act more like a front. Next slide, please. Lastly, separating the TTC bay. There was some discussion about this at our last DRP, so this I don't think is entirely new, but TTC really wants separation there, so we're proposing this blade fence with some integrated lit bollards to define that edge. So we want to try to make it as light as possible visually, but really still provide that separation that the TTC wants to discourage people from moving there and focus them more to the northwest, as you saw on the slide. Yes, I think I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Scott. I will very quickly run through the floor plans, make some final comments, and then we'll finish. On the ground floor, what you can see here outlined in red are the 2 major areas where we are intervening in the existing building. At the north side, the parkade. This is the portion that we have to basically thread the structure and the services for the new tower through the parkade, accommodate the ramp, and accommodate loading. And at the southwest corner, a smaller lobby that is intended to service the hotel suites at the south end. Next, please. On the 2nd floor, we've just outlined the areas that we're adding to the parkade in order to accommodate the ramp, the access, etc., and the areas that we're threading through the existing structure. And at the south end, single-loaded set of hotel suites, which connect then to the 2nd floor. There's existing office space that has been empty since we've been involved in the project, so adding additional hotel suites on the 2nd floor. We are also proposing to convert the office space at the 2nd floor of 350 into additional rental residential suites. Next, please. On the typical parkade level, you can now see the residential extension to 396 at the north end, and then continuing those single-loaded floors of hotel suites. Next, please. And then when we get above the parkade level, we have 1 more floor of hotels, so we can fully conceal the parkade to the extent possible. We also have the indoor amenity and some outdoor amenity area for the new residential 396 tower. And we've also identified some areas where we are able to reinforce the structure sufficiently to accommodate some green roofs. Next, please. And then above that, you see the typical tower floors for both the new residential tower 396 and the residential extension of 390. Next, please. And then finally, the upper floors, the penthouse floors, we've partially buried the mechanical penthouse for the 396 tower within the top residential floor, with the balance being a smaller portion that extends above. Next. So elevations wise, as you can see, we have the existing building and to the right, and we're essentially using that same vocabulary throughout to complete the story, the skyline story that we started those many years ago. Next, please. We had to throw in a picture of the current status of the construction, just to say that your vision and ours, and of course our client, Mr. Somji's vision, is actually being realized as we speak on the site. It's been quite an adventure building in this area, but it's coming out incredibly well, and really great kudos also to Multiplex, who is the general construction managers, who've done an amazing job. Next, please. So this is the vision for the long term. Again, you can see that the principles are very much the same. These vertical elements that pick up the spacing of the setback buildings behind the facades on Queens Quay, the vertical expression for the podiums, in this case the hotel suites that now conceal the parkade behind. Next, please. And it's the materials that we're proposing to use, again, are a continuation of what we had before: white precast concrete for the white portions, a dark gray precast concrete for the other elements, and then certain strategic use of black panels, metal panels in a grid pattern on the development. Next, please. This is gives you a view of the south elevation. This is the view that you would see from Queens Quay. The red stripe is the existing Shoppers Drug Mart signage, but you can see the expression of the podium at the hotel suites, and then the residential tower, the white precast in the center, the metal panels behind in the curved component, and then at the northwest corner, a gray precast panel. Next, please. This is the west elevation, which is the elevation along the west side of the site, again, where the parkade is exposed, and we're proposing to add additional white precast elements to tie the two components together and further conceal the parkade. Next, please. This is the north elevation, the elevation that you would see from the Gardner. Again, you can see the vertical elements extending along the parkade to further conceal it. The new addition to the north end of 390, and then the new 396 tower. Next, please. And then this is the east elevation. This is basically the elevation that faces 390, along with the roof terraces, and on the left side, the hotel suite, which extends one floor above the parkade. Next, please. So this is a rendering looking at the new Queens Quay West facade, which shows you that we have eliminated that two-story overhang. I think shoppers will be very happy. Their signage will be much more visible. But using that white precast, that shaped white precast, and then using these elements also to, in a creative way, continue the theme of the curves of the original buildings, as well as using curves to notify people where the entrance is to 396 North, as they go around the curve northward off of Queens Quay West. Next, please. This is the rendering of the pedestrian passageway along the west side of the Shoppers Drug Mart, leading you towards the lobby for 396 North. You can see the use of, again, curved elements to kind of keep that theme going, and you also get a nice visual of the fence between our property and that of the TTC. Next, please. And then this is really just a view looking again southwest, which will show you the various elements and how we have, in a rhythmic way, copied and pursued the rhythms that we had originally established in phase one. So the vertical elements, the horizontal elements, the white 3-story high rhythm of the facades, and then the darker elements that allow us to create that sense of a skyline and visual connections through to the mechanical penthouse in a clear and gentle way. Just wanted to point out one more thing, which is that part of the improvements that we created to the 2 existing buildings was to create an outdoor space on the roof of both of those existing buildings with that lovely winged element that we've created for sun protection, as well as to really tie all of our elements together. Next, please. So this is a view as we imagine it, and we hope that we can get some comments from you that will be supportive of the direction. I will just throw one last white elephant or elephant in the room on the table, which is that one of the biggest challenges of this project is that water basin. Nobody's ever been able to properly get us to understand the purpose or the meaning of that area. It is owned by the city, but we do wonder whether there is some way that the city could take some initiative and perhaps perish the thought, convert that to additional usable parkland, rather than what is essentially right now a backwater in the truest sense of the word. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and your patience. I know we might have run over time a little bit, but look forward to your comments. Back to you, Paul and Leon.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Les. I appreciate your presentation and also that last comment about the basin. A lot of us have that same question. So let's move to questions of the panel, and we'll go through that first and start off. And I think I'll maybe go to Pina. If you want to kick it off, are you there, Pina?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah,
hello.
Since you haven't been part of the previous phase, this is all new to you. So, any questions?
I actually do have a question. I mean, I should say thank you so much for the presentation and for the comprehensiveness of it. The question I had was during the rezoning, was there a wind study done specifically for this building and this block? And if so, what resulted from that in terms of the architecture we're seeing?
I don't know if I should answer that or if our city planner should answer that. We did. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, whoever is ready with the answer.
I can probably address that.
Yeah,
yes, we did have a wind report done for the latest phase that we're looking at, and there were a couple of areas where there was suggested that we could add some elements to the architecture to improve the wind conditions on the outdoor amenity terrace that's at the top of the parkade. We've added a canopy at the south side of the tower, which takes out the downdraft from the tower of that to help mitigate any wind in the outdoor amenity space. And also on the west side of the outdoor amenity space, we've raised some glazed panels that are in between the extensions of the vertical panels that we're suggesting to provide some screening to the parkade. We've suggested that we would extend those above the roof level of the parkade to provide some wind screening for the outdoor amenity space in that area as well. And the last place that we've added something is on the ground floor level, just adjacent to the entrance to the lobby for the new 396 North Tower. There are some glazed screens that we're providing there to also help mitigate wind conditions at the entry to that lobby. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I do have
other questions, Pina?
Yes. In terms of the height of the new building 396 North, I guess, what set the height? Is it contextual with respect to the adjacent buildings? Was there any conversation about it getting taller?
Well, Pina. Where were you when I needed you 6 years ago? Our original proposal was for the initial building was actually something much taller than the current one, but we had various issues associated with neighbors and city and various things, and we ultimately agreed that generally speaking, the building should be in the range of the existing buildings, and that's what we used as our guide. So I would say then the correct answer is contextual, but again, one of the more intriguing elements of the initial design was the slight variations in the various variations of the buildings, making it very much more street-like than one would have expected as a monolithic structure. So we've played with that as part of our as part of our contextual response to this approach.
Great, thanks, Les. Ina, anything else? Oh, okay. Jana, are you there?
I
Any
am, Paul.
questions,
Thank
Jana?
you. I'm here. Thanks for the great presentation, Les and Scott. I just have one question. Is there a site plan that shows the demarcation between the Peter Street Basin that the city owns, the private property for the developer, the TTC turnaround, so we get a sense of where you're actually constrained?
Oh, yes, I think so. Ken, I don't know if you can get there fast enough, but maybe go back to the initial presentation. One of the first slides we showed, Jana would show that. Actually, any of these are fine because they show it. This isn't the best, but essentially, I don't know if you can see the red line. That is our property line. Yep. And so it is, as was described by Fadi, a U-shaped form. And you can see that the property line around the Peter Street Basin is essentially a meter or less in front of our walls. Does that answer your question, Jana?
Yep, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks,
Okay.
thanks, Les.
Matthew, any questions?
Yes, sorry, just trying to get to my mute button there. Thanks,
Yeah.
Les and Scott. Good to see you both.
Nice to see you,
just
Matthew.
A quick question. Slide 16, you're showing a section through the 2 additional trees, but it's going north-south. Is the east-west section the same? Are they connected underneath the pavers there?
That's for you, Scott.
Yes. Yes, sorry. I'm at, yes, they are.
Okay, perfect. Slide 17, which is the next one. Just wondering where the edge of the Gardner deck is.
Yeah, that's the venter is there beside the cyclist.
Yeah.
And
does the deck extend over top?
Yeah, it does.
Slightly.
Yeah. So
The-
yeah,
the-
no, sorry, we haven't put it on.
The deck actually is just about half a meter to the north of the property line, so the deck comes almost to the property line, but is just half a meter shy of that. Does that answer your question, Matthew?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a difficult condition there, but thank you
Yeah.
for letting me know that.
Matthew, part of the original siting of the additions to the north ends of the 2 existing buildings was that we had to maintain an open space over our property line for potential maintenance of the Gardner.
Right. Okay, thanks, Les. Just one more quick question. Understanding that this new, well, first of all, I commend you for taking down the arcade and giving some space back. But was there any consideration on this facade and its relationship to the park to the south?
The park on the south side of Queens Quay?
Yeah.
And Scott, you can speak to that, but other than making it better.
Yeah, it's still fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just wondering, if there is anything from a tree height perspective, or what that section looks like all the way through the streetscape up into the other park. The section that was shown across the street, I believe, stops before that. But any insight you can have or provide there?
Scott, I don't know. I mean, it was certainly, it's not a what I would call a welcoming place to cross Queens Quay West. It's you have to take your life into your hands basically between the cars, the bicycles, the TTC streetcar, and the pedestrians themselves. Taking selfies all the way along is not an insignificant challenge. I'm not sure that I think it's fair to say, Matthew, that no, we were not deeply influenced by the park on the south side of Queens Quay, to be up front.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bridget, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for the presentation. And it has been a long time, 2018, 2019 to now. I had a question that was more for Waterfront Toronto than the proponents. I wondered what the timing of the Reese Street Park east of the property is. We've seen it in an earlier stages a while ago, but we have not seen it for a while. And it was more of a status update on where it is, what its anticipated, construction timeline is.
Yeah. I'm just going to defer to Leon. I don't think we have an update as yet on that. Is my memory serves me correct? The previous scheme, of course, was not accepted, and basically we're starting from square one all over again. But other than that, is there anything you know?
I don't think we have any precise timing we can share at this point, but the project will come back to the panel for another review cycle, because we're going to have a new design team and a new design. But that is in the works, and we should be seeing something very soon.
I see. Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Oh, okay, thank you. Let's go down the list here. Betsy, do you have any questions? I don't know, are you there, Betsy?
Sorry.
I think Betsy actually had to step off for a quick meeting, but she will
return. She'll be coming back. Okay, we'll come back to Betsy. Nina Marie. Any questions, Nina Marie?
Yep, sorry, just trying to unmute. I have one that others may share. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the green roof. I heard you mention it. I can see it hinted at, but I didn't see detail. And maybe you mentioned more and I missed it. Thank you.
I think I'll turn it over to Scott to go through the details of that. But you can see the outdoor amenity areas and then the green areas that are delineated by those rectangular forms. Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Les. Yeah, we're on top of the outdoor amenity area. We're constrained by the existing roof structure, so we would have to maintain that as extensive planting, and we wouldn't be able to do anything more than that. But on the new green roofs, we're currently using on the east side 150 depth pre-planted module on there, so we would continue that on the west side as well.
So sorry, just to clarify, because I'm not sure I heard you correctly. On the higher roof that is affected by the canopy or by the existing roof structure, you're saying that it has to be extensive and not planted modules. Like, can you just say what that is? And then the pre-planted modules are effectively like a succulent mix or something.
Yeah, so on the outdoor amenity, like the existing parkade roof, the loading doesn't allow anything more intensive than like a typical extensive roof. But on the new roofs right now, and we'd be getting into the details more in further application, but it would be to match what we've done on the east side, which are, yes, 150 depth pre-planted modules, primarily, yes, succulents, and then a few other plants that could survive in those conditions.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Nina Marie?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, Eric,
Yes.
any questions, Eric?
Yes, 3 questions. One, let's go to page 20 of the. Part of it has to do, yeah, my question is, sorry,
can you tell me
20
which
from
illustrations
20 from
is
the
on that?
PDF. It
Yeah.
would be the,
What's the title of the drawings?
the title is, oh, this 1 second. I'll get there. It is called the, it's kind of the
20, right? So it's this one.
Oh,
Second
ground
floor?
floor?
The ground floor?
maybe one after the next one.
This one.
Yeah, so part of it is to do with the phasing that I'm trying to understand the area. Some of the area in red there are the parkade extensions. Some of them are to have a rebuild of a portion. Are you planning to keep the existing tenant in place during construction, and as well as keeping the parking structure operating? I'm just kind of wondering, so if you're just carving a holes, or is it going to be a?
Yep.
That's it.
Welcome to our nightmare, Eric.
So the tenants are staying in place?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so therefore, the ramp, you're basically carving a hole beside the existing ramp.
That's correct.
Okay. My second question is at the ground. So I think it is a couple of yes, on this one, the treatment at grade along the covered walkway, the treatment of the west facade. Yes. What is it going to be open to the interior of the retail space? Is it going to be just an architectural treatment? Just trying to understand its characteristic.
The intention is that it will be open to the retail facade.
Okay, and do you have any control over that, or?
Well, we have the control in the sense that the glass belongs to us. We
Okay.
don't have any control in terms of how they lay it out. I have to admit that.
Okay.
If they decide to plaster it with PC Optimum posters, that will be tough to deal with. But if there is advantage to them, as there will be to us, to have an active facade turn the corner, then I think that we are enabling that to happen.
Okay, and the bike parking, are they exclusively on that west side of the colonnade,
No.
or are they also?
No, there is a number of places. If you can go to the bicycling yeah, so you can see the P. There's a P in the northeast corner. There's a P immediately to the north of the 390 addition, and there's a P at the lobby to 396 north. So all of those are areas for bicycle parking.
And they are all exterior, correct?
Yes, yes. Those are the exterior ones. Obviously, we have also interior ones, but those are not the ones that we're looking at here.
Okay. And an interior one, they would be, I guess, within that purple zone there?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, is that it, Eric? Yep.
Yes.
Fatty, are you there?
Yeah.
Any
Hi.
questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah. Thanks for the presentation. Two quick. One follow-up question to Nina Marie's. Maybe it's just a bit easier to comprehend, understand. Is there a percentage that you would say the green roof occupies of the new versus the retrofit? And how much of it is amenity and accessible, and how much of it is not?
We can get you that percentage, but if you go to that plan, it looks like it's about kind of 50-50-ish.
Okay.
Is that fair? I don't know. What do you think?
And how much of it is accessible, and how much of it is like amenity versus the green roof?
The outdoor amenity is the area that's hatched and labeled outdoor amenity, and the inaccessible portion is the one that's shown in the green with the rectangular outlines.
All right. And then just another quick question about the.
And I don't know why I'm answering landscape questions. Sorry, Scott. Apologize.
No, it's fine. It's just sometimes
All right.
things are accessible and sometimes they're not. So just want to clarify the amenity versus the removed portion. And then the other is about the perimeter of the site. I think it goes back a little bit about the question that Jana was asking about the extent of the, the proponents for and when the city line begins. So just to clarify, is the team here in charge of paving around the basin with new pavers and adding new lighting around? Not at all, right? And then along Lakeshore, are there any new lighting that will be added?
Only within our site.
Within your site, there'll be.
Yeah. It'll be a continuation of what we've done on the east side of the site. We'll continue on the west side of the site.
Okay, fantastic. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Fatty. Gina, are you there?
I am. Hi.
Hi, any
Any
questions?
Thanks for the presentation. I don't have the long history, so I just wanted to ask with this project, as others do, if you could just clarify for me how cars are moving here. It's just a little unclear to my brain. How many and.
This is Gina. This is first of all, history is actually a lot longer. We've been working on this project since 2012, so this is year number 12 for us. But the driveway, the vehicular driveway, is exactly as you see it there, and there are access points to the parking where you can see the P. And a couple of convenient surface parking spaces, and the L shows where loading is. But it's basically either at the very southeast corner or the very southwest corner are the only places where vehicles can access. They can't access from Lakeshore, they can't access from Reese Park, and they can't access from the west through the TTC lands.
What kind of volume do you expect here? Like how many cars per day, plus or minus?
I do not have access to the transportation report. I do apologize for that, but frankly, we expect a pretty low volume from cars of the project. Knowing as we do residential buildings, I suspect the primary volume will be Uber drivers and Amazon deliveries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. David, any questions?
Yeah, thanks very much for your presentation, Les and Scott. Nice to see you both.
Nice to see you.
I'm just trying to drill down. If you go into to slide 16, it's a landscape slide there. It's a two-part question. It's an architectural question, Les, and then a kind of landscape component to it for Scott. I'm trying to understand that black little arrow there that seems to be an entrance to a corridor. Is that a very heavily used pedestrian entrance, or will it be with this development? It seems to lead into a corridor from what I can.
No, that's actually the main entrance to shoppers.
The main entrance to shoppers. So the main entrance to shoppers then isn't on the corner.
Actually, no. I just want to clarify that that's another shop front. Actually, right now there's a bicycle.
Sorry,
there's a bicycle shop right there.
Right.
The Shoppers Drug Mart entrance is on the southwest corner.
My apologies. It's also the access to the hotel.
Yeah, is that the bicycle store?
Yes.
Entrance? Okay. All right.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then maybe then to Scott, I'm wondering just around where that arrow is, maybe a little bit to the west of that. Are there any constraints in that area in terms of soil cells, for example, that could be introduced there with a tree if it was offset from that entrance? Like, is there any underground infrastructure that we're not seeing on the plans here?
Good to see you too, David. As we note, we still have to daylight these, but I don't believe so. Ivy, I don't know if you can jump in on that one. I don't think there is anything in that area. So it's really just the entrance, as Ken and Les described.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there is any. Yeah.
Good. That was a kind of technical question there. So thanks for that. But my other questions were answered previously, so I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, two more. Kevin, any questions?
Thanks very much, and thanks for all the information. I guess I'm curious, maybe this is the city or a waterfront. What version of TGS applies here? Do we know?
Les, are you aware? Or?
I don't have that information. Ken, do you? I don't have that information at the tip of my tongue. Again, this history is so long. I can't remember.
Well, that's why I'm
what was
asking.
it.
Like, I would have thought
remember what
version
was
3,
implied.
but maybe if you started in 2012, it might have been version 2. So I was just
No. This application is, I think, started in 2019 or 20 or something like that, right?
So there'll be version 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. So what plant type are we thinking to power this building? Heating and cooling. What are we envisioning here?
I think I don't know if Shazad is on the call at the moment, but I think we're basically going to replicate the mechanical system that was in use in phase 1. And I'm sorry, I don't have that information at my
Les, I can partially answer that question.
Thank you so much, Shazad.
We have not detailed designed everything, but 390 North expansion would have the same design feature for heating and cooling as 350 North expansion, which are primarily the tech units. And for 396 North and South, we'll be looking at the same design configuration as in 370 new construction.
Yeah, could you help me? What is it?
I have to go back and look at it. I believe those are like heat pumps.
I think they're fan coils or heat pumps, but I can't remember which one. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No problem. Okay. I guess I just want to get a sense on how we're going to meet the greenhouse gas intensity. So maybe we could think about that, and I can expand a little further in comments. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. I think Betsy, I think you're back. Are you there, Betsy?
I do, but I don't have any questions at this time.
No
Thank
questions.
you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That takes care of everyone. So let's move to comments, and we'll go back through the list. Pina, since you kicked it off with questions, any comments you'd like to make?
Sure. Well, I should start off by saying that it's such a pleasure to review this project as an example of digesting some of our parkades in the city. I really do think it has the opportunity to be an exemplar of these structures that slowly but surely will become obsolete and absorbed, maybe not entirely obsolete, but definitely put some pressure on them in terms of their use. So I think that there's some great strategies in terms of encrusting, especially the interface of that structure with the street and with public realm. I think the hotel suites, at least on Queen's Quay, is very interesting, and the general opportunity. I think my first comment is really about what I would call the sidewalk strategy or the retail strategy or rationale, for lack of a better word, especially as this project is really coming in to tether into the 2019, what I would call the 2019 project. And I love to sort of understand better the kind of experiential ambition of the sidewalk at that retail canopy around the basement versus Quay. I think that the singular tenant of Shoppers Drug it may not be forever, but also I think that there is an opportunity here to start to activate that facade. And I'm thinking more about additional projection, and I'm all in favor of removing that the colonnade and projection, the existing projection. Wider sidewalk experience there is always good. It is south facing, so overhangs, canopies, some differentiation for in the future. Could there be a finer grain retail, for example, at along that what I would call the Shoppers Drug Mart corridor? and even just how it actually works in unison or in harmony with the imagination of retail around the basin and the future of the basin. I think there's almost these kinds of three main typologies. There's the north-south pedestrian walk. There's that ring around the basin, and then there's the new frontage on Queens Quay. The fourth, even though not necessarily arguing for retail at the TTC right of way there on the west side, that is really a space where people are walking to get to that residential lobby. And as much as I so appreciate the big overhang and the, I'm sure, very creative lighting solutions and all of that, the rendering really is showing just that first very short area that is still Shoppers Drug Mart. And there's some level of animation there, but there's a big stretch between it and the lobby that is parkade, if I'm understanding it correctly. So, you know, this time of year, it's not, there needs to be, I think, a bit more generosity with respect to that, you know, that sidewalk experience. The second comment I have is really in and around the tower itself. I'm just, you know, I just think it's such a great opportunity to create a singular gestalt for this block as even an introduction. Where it's placed, I think, is great, as perfect. It's sensitive to even its role in the collection of buildings. I think the sort of healing strategy, using your word, is really strong and as a kind of social approach. But I'm not sure that the collage, what I would call like the collage approach of the articulation of that building, and maybe we could go to that view from the southwest towards there's the, I think it's called view from northwest, is really, like, even that one, yeah, is really an opportunity for that corner building to have a kind of gestalt, a singular identity, as a kind of gateway element. Right now it feels like it's not, but it does feel like it's a bit resultant from something that was already there, as opposed to really imposing a new iconic element at the corner. And it also sits at the part of the site, as I said, that the scale of it, that's why I was asking about the height, because if there is anywhere where you do want a bit more of that scale, is there towards the city and against the Gardiner, for it to be a kind of a beacon, bringing people around the corner, and yeah, just a kind of a more sort of willful architectural identity. And I guess I have just one last point, probably leave this to Kevin, but just maybe not even a comment, but more just leaving it as a something to think about, is the south face of the tower itself being, you know, the fact that there are no balconies is a great advantage, but also probably calls into question the ratio of glazing to the 50% opening, so to speak, is maybe not the best measure of the south facade, especially without the benefit of the overhangs of the balconies. And what if there is a kind of just a more opportunistic idea of how that facade could be a bit more responsive to that south face. Thank you.
Oh, you're muted.
You're on mute, Paul.
there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we were on mute. So.
Oh, we were, okay. All right, Matthew, are you there? No?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am.
Oh, you are, okay. Any
I am.
comments?
Yes, just one quick comment. It doesn't really necessarily pertain to this project, but this has brought up a condition that I think we should be thoughtful about in the future. We often prioritize the built environment and our relation to that when we're looking at architectural facades and massing and whatnot. But along the waterfront, we do have opportunities where we are in relationship to natural heritage, to natural features, and I think we should be looking at how we can strengthen those relationships to parks, to trees, to those other built environments, which we often kind of negate, even if they're just across the street. So my comment is kind of in general across the board for future projects coming to the DRP is to encourage them to think about our relationship, not only with the built world, but with also the natural world.
Okay, thank you. Jenna.
Yeah, thanks. And I really appreciate, thanks to Alessa and Scott, not only for the presentation, but the thoughtfulness about trying to screen the parkade. As Pina was saying, I think it's really great to start eroding that part of our built history, and also removing the second floor level to the south and making this street a much stronger street. I have three comments. The first is on, if you can turn to slide 15. I don't envy the task that you have. I think you're really between a rock and a hard place in the ground floor. You know, the lack of growing living landscape, to Matthew's point, is profoundly noted, I think, by everyone, including the proponents. But I do feel that that it is worth another scrub of the ground plane and develop a series of tactics so that there's not this kind of melange of paving types. I think what that does is it creates a lot of friction and actually a kind of confusion about where people are supposed to be and where cars are. I think if you really simplify and create a much more buttoned down, enriched ground plane, maybe with just one kind of paving type, and then maybe one kind of blade or planter or raised area that people have to maneuver around. I think that you would start to create something a lot better. And even areas where you have the TTC block and the curve there, I wonder if there's a way to resolve that a little more artfully than just as a kind of outcome of a turning radius. So I think there's a really great opportunity. This is not just a driveway, it's a walkway, it's a pathway, it's landscape. And I think it needs more attention to the way that it moves around the building, and every orientation, west, north, east, and south, is different. And I think it can be different in the way you resolve it. So that's one thing I think is really important. I think the next thing is, if you go to the slide that says the 6th level slide, I think there's a lot of potential for a 5th elevation here with the outdoor amenity space. There's going to be a lot of people looking down on this outdoor amenity space. In your view from on slide 42, you sort of suggest that you're going to bring the landscape out to the edges of this roofscape, and I would really encourage you to do that. It's gonna be facing west. You'll probably get light from the south and from the east. I think there's a lot of opportunities in the outdoor amenity space to really use that as a landscape area, and also then to have that, if it comes to the edges, it can actually come down and inform the reading of those 2 elevations. So I'd really encourage you to do that as well. And then finally, if we go to the south elevation where you've got the hotel screen, I think it's a really great opportunity. I would just suggest that when you look at your, I won't call them the ugly sisters, Les, but if you look at your cluster, if you look at the way that screen is designed, the scale of it is actually enormous, and it's all vertical. And I think this is the part of the building that's closest to the street. And it could actually I think it could really accept a little more articulation horizontally as well as vertically to bring down the scale and also to integrate it into the other members of that cluster. Right now, it stands out in a way that I'm not sure it's the and I'm not sure it's benefiting the street or the cluster elevation with its singularity of the way it's that elevation is masked. And if we think about it being south facing, maybe there's something you can do to, again, to Pina's point, with controlling southern light infiltration that might add something to that elevation and make it more satisfying. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Bridget, you there?
Sorry.
Yep, I'm here. Can you
sorry,
hear me?
Paul.
Sorry.
Oh,
Can I
sorry,
just
yeah.
jump in? Can I just jump in for 1 second? I did put a note in the chat. Unfortunately, I do have a 4:30 commitment here in the office that I'm going to have to leave. I think Ken can remain if you don't mind, and this is not intended in any way to express disrespect for the panel. I hope you understand that. But unfortunately, I do have another commitment, so I appreciate all the comments, and I'll stay on as long as I can. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be fully briefed, Les, so don't worry. Okay, Bridget, thanks, Les.
Yeah, could we go to slide number 14? So I guess, first of all, I felt like, given the long time period, I would say I appreciate the whole proponents' kind of commitment, both the client and the kind of team, to really executing a vision that is really over time. And I think that often it doesn't happen. You get partway through and the agenda changes, and I think it's really important to commend you for it, because it's a super tough site. There really is no backside. When you see the section through the Gardner and the Lakeshore, it's really like up against it. So I feel like what you've done is turn what was a back kind of into a front in a really good way. And I know it's tough and there's so many constraints. The reason I feel like this slide is the most important for me is that this question that Paul brought up of how do you unlock the water basin? And then for me, how do you make a connection to the Reese Street Park are kind of two things that are a bit beyond the the developer and the team, and I think really needs a kind of joint kind of collaboration with both Waterfront Toronto and the city. Because I think, we requested this east-west connection that we see here, and I think once the park is there, it'll become really vital and useful, but in the meantime, it's a parking lot. The basin has issues in terms of the width of the walkway. It relates to the scale of the retail all the way around west, north, and east. And so how the kind of scale of retail works with the kind of water basin. There's the right amount of shading, canopy, cafe tables, and this kind of urban connection east-west between the future Reese Park across through the kind of building and to the water basin is kind of, for me, really key to unlocking this and not having it be a forgotten space, but really vital. And maybe there's a whole scale of activity that's much more micro that can happen here that might not happen in other places. Maybe the opposite of a Shoppers Drug Mart, like really super small scale retail or something else that can actually activate this water basin or find a solution to something that sort of feels forgotten. And given the kind of, it needs more of a kind of a few more pieces to kind of allow this east-west linking across to really be successful. And I feel like it's an important task for both the city and Waterfront Toronto and the whole team to sort of work on together, because you can see the property line and you can see the kind of line of Reese Park, and so it's a kind of necessary joint effort to unlock this piece. Thank you.
Thanks, Bridget. Let's see, Nina Marie.
Hi, thank you. Thanks to everyone for your excellent comments. And And to the team, because I know this has been a long journey, and I appreciate the sustained and persistent effort to do something better at each meeting. We know this is a constrained site, and I want to just build for a brief moment on what Matthew and Bridget, and to a certain extent, Jenna, have said. The public realm is so critical for this project, and as it's doing all of the things that Pina noted or trying to do, really make a better building on this street and a better street, I feel that even the public, in a public space, to be talking about filling in water is really wrong-headed. And that's not something that the team has said. I recognize that. That's really about our commentary. And so I'm building on Bridget's comment to say that for all those who have capacity with what this team is making, the city, Waterfront, and designers, that this particular project with its watery doorstep has a huge potential to link and build better relations with land and water. That is, I know that that's a challenge within the scope of the team itself, but again, the responsibility back to the city and to us to recognize that this is critical on the waterfront in particular. There are ways we can think creatively about this basin that I know lots of us don't like, but it actually has a huge function potential and signifying that relationship, even building down to the water, terracing, a gradient works for filtering, for opening that area under the road. That's not in scope today, but I want that comment on the record, because to even let the words pass our collective lips that would fill in water on our waterfront today seems to undo a lot of the progress on design excellence this committee has made and stepped up to the many reviews projects like this in an effort to make them better, and with that, to make better relations.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Thank you. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the presentation. Very, very much appreciate. I think that just on the note, some of the question about the as well, agree with my colleagues about supporting the removal of the colonnade and improving the public realm around the front, and the addition of those hotel suite at the front. I think that my colleague eloquently talked about the facades, so that I'm not really going to. I'm just going to support what the commentary were there. I think that building on Pina's comments earlier is the entrance of the building, the main front door here, I think to me is a bit of the experience of, because you're basically going through an alley, through a colonnade to get to a front door of a building, which is not very public. So I think that looking at the experience, looking at the treatment of that walkway, frankly, I wish the lobby was actually pulled closer to Queen's Quay if possible. I think that would be one thing. I think the experience of the colonnade is something that needs to be looked at. I think looking at the site plan, the quantity of bicycle parking that's being lined up there is probably excessive. I know it's important, but I would probably cut that in half and find out a way to distribute it, because it's going to be, very cluttered. I think this needs to be more, that experience from walking from Queen's Quay to the lobby needs to be more than just walking through bicycle parking. It needs to be something positive. It needs to have some landscape, some treatment. It needs to have maybe there are some seating or something, but because it's going to be the main experience there. As an opportunity, and this is maybe building a little bit on what Brigitte is talking about, that collaboration between the City of Toronto, Waterfront. I would add the TTC here as well. I think looking at that north-south driveway, and to say, this is my side, this is your side. I think from a city building perspective, like, it should be treated as a one space. I'm just thinking of Charlotte Street, just King and Spadina. It's streetcar can turn around. Like, the public space can be shared. It's not like if the TTC is going at a fabulous speed here. It is a place that I think that as part of looking at the public realm here and also thinking of the experience of those pedestrians going through, I think there's an opportunity here to rethink and relook at something more holistically for that space here that connects north-south and connects the as part of our public realm. I think Les talked about, eloquently about the opportunity of healing. And I'm just thinking that, there's a lot of intervention that is being done at the north end of the site. Like if you were, and I know that, you're very surgically trying to carve out a part of the parking lot of the structure and insert yourself. I think if there's an opportunity to do a bit more, because frankly, if you were to replan that corner, you would probably not put the ramp exactly there at the corner. I think that if there's a way to, as part of the phasing, as part of doing the work, if there are opportunity to further improve that corner, how it turns around, how the pedestrian experience, how safety, and how the integration of the public realm could be done there. I mean, I wish you could just carve out the north side completely, not just doing a hole here and there, and then redo it, but do it in a way that from a contemporary doing it, and we'll put the ramp in the right place. We'll actually turn the corner with some better visibility with the lobby and eliminate some of these conflicts, and then at the same time improving the experience there for everyone. And my last comment is a small comment, but it has to do with and it's a minor comment, but it's the tower shape. Looking at I think that just the way that it engaged the northwest corner, and it has that, the curve and all, and then turn, and then just making sure that we apply a certain separation distance. When we read the various volumes that you move along Lakeshore Boulevard or on the Gardner, there's a certain rigor. To me, I would have applied the tower shape there. I would have straightened if you go to slide number, maybe a little bit higher, I think. Somewhere around there. I think that the tower shape where you have the corner, I would have applied, I would have actually straightened, I would have created a bit of a step back after the podium and then regularize the shape there to be fairly, to kind of response to that cadence that you have from the other part. And if you need to get a little bit of extra square footage, I would say, well, maybe just extend that the volume to the south a tiny little bit, and it's a minor thing, but I think it reads better from a massing perspective, and also it preserves some of these view corridor that you have from more north in the city looking down, as opposed to trying to squeeze the gap. So it creates a more open and better visual connection with the rest of the city toward the water. And I will leave my comments to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fadi?
Yes, thank you. I want to start by thanking the team for their commitment to the DRP and the iterative nature of this exercise. So I think it's really helped the project progress a lot, and it's really great seeing it back one more time for this next phase. I also think that your commitment to the adaptive, retrofit versus an addition versus demolition is actually commendable. So I think there's something really critical about the value, and I think Jana started to mention this about this idea that we can begin to retrofit as needed and adaptively fix some of these older structures as we move forward, especially with the development as a whole. So I think there's something really wonderful in there. And just a quick, without repeating what had been said, but I think it's, the uniqueness of this site and the basin, now that there's been this amazing investment and new people moving in and living around it, is going to become a real catalyst for the city to begin to really think about that space as something that's unique. And so I think as part of this project, the connections to new public realm all around, the investment in this kind of interstitial amazing spaces all around the building that are going to be contributing to the experience of not just the waterfront as a whole, but these new amazing sites that are sort of idiosyncratic along the waterfront that become the most unique and most attractive. So what I see our proponents doing here is contributing in a really wonderful way to the space. So I just want to, be kind of on the record to mention how important it is now to really invest in this basin, upgrade it, create, much more accessible public edges, good lighting, maybe, put some hydrophilic plants all around and find a way to allow people to engage not just with the basin in on itself, but finding ways to connect to these new investments, whether it's the Reese Street, the parks all across, and Queens Quay overall. So I'm just seeing and trying to situate what this project is within the greater context of the public realm investments that are happening along the waterfront. And just to mention that your addition to this is a true catalyst for reinvestment into the basin and on the public realm all around. So I just want to thank you for that, and I think the project is moving in a commendable direction. Thanks.
Sorry, Paul, we were muted.
Oh,
yeah.
Gina, are you there?
Yeah, hi, everyone. I think most of what I was going to say has been said already, but I would just say when you have such a tight public realm and you all have done a laudable job trying to squeeze a lot of potatoes into a bag that doesn't seem to quite want to fit them all. So I appreciate how hard this must be, but I just want to reinforce the idea as a first-time viewer of the project, the pedestrian realm feels so squeezed and the vehicular realm seems expansive by comparison. I just wonder if there's a way, to Jana's point, through design, thinking about how either you fully embrace the idea of a flush street, an expansive paving that's unifying, that has a little bit more porosity and less confined to these really discrete zones, especially given what you said of traffic volumes, that's really not a huge amount of traffic coming through here, or even more dramatically thinking about one-way circulation that could cheat and allow you to have more pedestrian realm. I just think there's every inch matters in a streetscape and a pedestrian realm like this. And so decisions like whether there's a curb or not matter, decisions about how the circulation happens really do matter. So like everyone else, all the other LAs, I would just encourage thinking about how to unify and make more flexible that cross section all the way around. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Gina. David?
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thanks again for your presentation. If just a few comments, I'm certainly in agreement with what's been said previously. I wanted to focus a little bit on Queens Quay, referring back to one of Matthew's comments. And I think one of the things about the north side of Queens Quay through this section of the street, I don't mean cross section, but actually just flipping now to slide 14, if you could. And you can get a sense of that. I think looking at this slide, it is kind of bleak, frankly, especially to the west, where there are virtually no street trees along this stretch, and you get the benefit of the parks on the south side, the Reese Street Park on the north side ultimately. But you can see even from this diagram, 5 street trees on this entire site. And so what I was getting at in the question was how we might be able to improve that. I think that there is a very strong relationship between this building and the park across the street. And I think anything that you can do to add another tree or two along this edge will go a long way to creating a dialogue between the park and Queens Quay Boulevard on that north side. So I think that that's really worth investigating, Scott, to see what you can do, even if it means putting a tree very close to an entranceway. We can all kind of walk around a tree very easily, but I think the canopy along that north edge would make a big difference. And I should say, taking away that colonnade is actually a great move in terms of improving that condition. I'm also a little bit concerned that we're continuing to perpetuate a model, although I certainly agree with the soil cells as a technology to help us grow trees in urban environments. I'm concerned that the street trees in tree grades in soil cells is not a model that we're seeing a lot of success with, frankly, in these urban environments. And I think I think that this would be a great site to kind of open that up a little bit and think about what the alternative to the street, to the tree grate might be here, because it does have that association with the park across the street. And I think it could be a greener solution where you have this additional space to do it. So I'd encourage you, Scott, to take that back to Waterfront Toronto. I recognize you're implementing a detail that they have for the entire boulevard, but I think there's an acknowledgement by the city and by Waterfront Toronto that this is a really harsh detail, and they're looking at alternatives to implement on the waterfront, certainly east of Yonge Street. And secondly, I wanted to just support also the idea that this bicycle parking and kind of long corridor down the west side, I feel is going to be very tight, and potentially, although I certainly agree with providing for as much bicycle parking as we can, it's a 2.1 meter wide walkway. I think it's going to feel really encumbered, closed in, and not unified as Jana and others have talked about, in terms of creating that a strong relationship between the a strong walking connection to the north, and then potentially a more seamless one between the street and that walkway to open that up. I also, when I looked at the diagram, one of my questions was going to be, where is the tabletop? And I feel that that's going to also be an issue when people are trying to cross over to connect to the northwest. And I do think that whole paving strategy needs to be simplified and clarified so there's a stronger visual link at that northwest. Yes, I recognize that it is there, but I don't think it's all that strong graphically in plan, and I think that it's going to be the same problem when you are looking for it. Just kind of walking up, especially if you have any visual impairment issues. I think that's really got to be strong. I'd also encourage you to remove or introduce unit paving rather than a kind of more typical paving at that loading zone, so that the pedestrian paving is always the pedestrian system is always prioritized over vehicles wherever there's a crossover of the two. Those are a few comments for you, but very nice development. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Betsy?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. And I want to kind of contextualize my comments in the spirit of the comments that were delivered when we were talking about the center buildings that are bracketed by the previous condominiums. In those conversations, we talked a lot about scale and activation. The journey to the basin on the Queens Quay side really starts with this long Shoppers Drug Mart facade. And I think there is a missed opportunity happening with all the conversation we had about small scale retail being really important to activate people, getting them into the basin. You have to start doing that at the west corner so that it's not, your experience of the building isn't first and foremost a long blank facade that we all know is going to have vinyl decal and all of the window except for the entrance. So how do you now activate this space? If you have, if you've kind of sole sourced out the rental for the space and you know it's going to be shoppers, you have to move that activation into the public realm. So is it benches? Is it planters? Is it something that starts to not make that wall a big blank wall? I don't believe that it's going to be clear glass like we see in the renderings. And even if it is, you can't enter in and have an entrance and exit at every single one of those spaces. So I think it's really important to not just have those two trees, but to get in there and do something that invites people to sit, give them shade. Maybe there's actually an overhang. So if it's raining, like something has to happen on the public realm on that west side. I agree with the other comments about the scaling of the precast facade on that area. It's the closer you are to the street level, I think you should really try to break it down. One of the most successful things about that center portion of buildings is how fine grained the facade is. And it's going to look fabulous. And just keep going with that idea. It seems like you've kind of shifted back to this more massive, overscaled pieces that we essentially talked you out of previously. The other piece that I think, and it's been mentioned by almost everyone, I think there's a real missed opportunity in the conversations with the city early on to not just eliminate that curved corner, give the west side a lot more room, take out all the building jogs. Right now, you've got such strong form on every other piece of this development, and the form completely breaks down on the west side. You've got this extruded corner from the previous Shoppers Drug Mart, then it steps back quite awkwardly to get you to Queens Quay. I think it's a total missed opportunity that wasn't shaved off, given the public a lot more space, done a huge planting piece to soften the noise of the trains coming around that corner, softening the noise and the impact of the traffic at the main entry lobby to the building, and then giving them maybe a little bit more height, a little bit more length coming on towards Queen. So I don't know. I know it's kind of, it's all now final, and that's sort of how we were presented with this project. It's like, okay, our negotiations are done, here we go. But that opportunity, I think, needs to be looked at one more time to really make the most of this site. Everyone has said how compromised the west side is. And in my opinion, you're not going to solve it with a nuanced facade or a little bit like one tree or two trees or even three more trees. I think it has to be a kind of a big rethink. Moving around to the north-facing facade, I would just reiterate my comments about scale. You've got a very large-scale fenestration system that doesn't really have a relationship to the other buildings. This is the strong end bracket of this entire complex. Break it down into a finer grained elevation, take the elevation up to hide all the mechanical equipment. That, like I said, the jumpiness and shifted building massing is doing nothing for the kind of the starting point of this really kind of important complex. So I think, you know, in my opinion, that whole edge needs to have a big redesign and maybe further discussions with the city. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Betsy. And last, I believe, Kevin, you have comments?
Thanks very much. And I want to reiterate what Patty said. It's cool and interesting to discuss adaptive reuse. It's a challenge, but can be really exciting. I just want to encourage the project to examine how heat pump technologies can get in there to reduce the carbon intensity of the project. I think the air source technologies, AirMech and Multistack, are there. They're getting very low ambient temperature. They can reach down, you know, -20 C, and actually offer affordable operational scenarios to power the building. I hope that that's part of the analysis. I was going to say that, you know, with a small hotel component here, maybe it's a very small study that happens that shows that maybe you can do a very, very small solar thermal array because of the high domestic hot water demand for that typology. They're very, very efficient, and even flat plate technology can go quite far. You have great exposure there. We know that we're not going to get any development in front of those arrays. So I guess I really hope that, you know, even if there's a fan coil structure in place the way this is planned, you know, that central plant can be driven by an air source heat pump, or maybe you can drive down at decentralized heat pumps, one per unit, and have a central ambient loop, and then you have a very, very, very small chiller and God help me, boiler up top to top up the temperature of that loop. But I just want to encourage you to really push hard on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I believe that's everyone on the panel, so I'll do my best. It's run a little bit over, but I think we have the time to summarize the comments, and then we'll take a vote. And I think in summary, everyone has basically appreciated how this project has evolved over so many years, and it is truly a story of evolution and transformation from what it was years ago. However, there's many suggestions I think that the panel members have made that I hope will be certainly considered to improve it even further. And I'll try and group them into various themes. I guess the first one, one of our panel members mentioned the most obvious thing, digesting parking garages. I love that phrase. We need to digest a lot more of them. And the fact is, this is a huge positive move that I want to thank the owner, the applicant, the architects, everybody for actually taking this on and doing this. I remember we said this when it was last here. We would love to see this last phase, evolve in that way. So that's the first thing. With respect to another overall theme, phrase used called healing strategy. And again, the healing is all over the place here in terms of making this project read as one integrated development, breaking down the facade into a much finer grain kind of treatment, removing the colonnade and the overhang that exists over the Queens Quay frontage of shoppers. Everyone welcomes and strongly encourage and would like to see that whole facade not only improved in that fashion, but much stronger sort of treatment given to the streetscape. I think the addition of the 2 trees is obviously a benefit, but many other people mentioned it needs to be taken a little further. And if you're going to do this, do it right, do it all the way, and really, really improve that streetscape in terms of the animation, the opportunities for people to sit, perhaps benches, put a filter or a public realm lens over this whole project and look at every opportunity around the entire project to green it, to add landscaping, to make it a much more attractive overall integrated development. The third area, I guess, was what I'll call the pedestrian system, the public realm all around the site. East, west, north, south. We've made many comments over the years over that, and we can see it represented on the slide, which is great. But there's perhaps an additional need to think of the future potential and future opportunities for collaboration with the city and TTC, how to activate the water basin. I know there's 2 different ideas that have been put out over the years. One is fill it in, the other, no, don't do that, leave it, but activate it and make it an integral, functional and attractive part of this project. Suggestions made about micro retail, small scale retail activation as one way to improve that, not only that west side of the basin, but again, the north side of Queens Quay. Another series of comments related to, I'll just call it the west side and the northwest corner. A lot of people felt that the west side need to be much stronger. Suggestions made about enriching the paving experience, to simplify it perhaps with a unified paving between the driveway and the pedestrian area is one consideration. Again, opportunities to add any form of activation and landscaping along that western edge. Comments made about the bicycle parking location there, and perhaps that needs to be rethought. And another area I think that several people mentioned, which is the actual northwest corner of the building, and suggestions made to use simple language to, instead of maintaining the curves and the indentations of the building, to actually regularize it to more of a tower format for similarity to the other buildings that have been built and under construction to the north side of the basin, and to allow for additional light penetration and views north-south to the water and to the north. The horizontal facade received some comments about the north side of Queens Quay. I guess I'll call it the hotel addition. Some people felt that it needed a much more finer grain horizontal as well as vertical integration, so related more to the other additional buildings that have been infilled to the north side of the basin. In terms of let me see what else here. I think those are the major themes. There were many other additional comments that were made, just, for example, stronger treatment and location of the lobby to the residential, the front door of the new residential building. Comments also made about expansion and utilization of the outdoor amenity space on the roof of the parking garage that were suggested. I think overall, we welcome what's being done. We think there's tremendous amount of work and effort has gone into this, but it can be made even better. And those suggestions, I think, are pretty uniform on the part of all the panel members. In addition to one other one, which was obviously to report back or report on opportunities to reduce the carbon intensity of the building. That wasn't information on that in the presentation. So I think that captures most of the major themes here. I think it's obviously going to be so much better than what exists there and what we've had to look at for a long time. But there's the chance to push the envelope further, and I think now's the opportunity to do that. So those would be the comments. I hope I captured most of them from the panel, and I would entertain suggestions for a vote. I mean, we're supportive, but we have conditions, and my sense is a conditional vote of conditional support at this stage would probably be most helpful. It goes back to the city, and the city is going to, you know, take these comments into consideration with the applicant, and we all know the new timelines, and they have an obligation to report out. So we'll see where that goes. So I'll put that motion on the table. Is there anyone who opposes conditional support? Let me make it that way.
I agree.
No? Okay, unanimous? Okay, thank you very much. Now give an opportunity to the proponent, and Les is gone, but I don't know who is here would want to speak for the proponent to respond to the comments that you've heard from the panel and my summaries. Who would want to respond? Not sure who is still there, Leon.
Ken, why don't you take it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that all sounds great.
Yeah, please,
really,
go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oops. I really appreciate the commentary, and I really appreciate you know, especially the comments about how we could even look to improve the public realm even more. I think on the site, we certainly, you know, really embrace all those opportunities. We're looking for those. I think there's been a lot of good suggestions put forward regarding that and what we could be thinking of. And one of the things I hope that the panel also recognizes, it's an evolving project. You know, it's something that is going to change. You know, we've got an idea for what it's going to be in the short term, you know, future, but you know, look at how long this building has been here. If you remember back to the early presentations we made when the building was first built in the 80s, think about what's changed along that time, and how we really, you know, harness the opportunities for the flexibility that we've discovered in the building to make it something that is really a completely different, you know, entity along the stretch of Queens Quay, and really does go a long way to improving, you know, the public experience along that. So we certainly, you know, welcome your thoughts about how we can look for opportunities to make it even better sort of over time, especially you know, if we can't find ways to do it like right now, is to leave that door open again with that recognition that it is going to evolve over time. So again, thank you so much for the for those comments, and we'll certainly keep that in mind, and you know, in the way that we you know, attempt to go forward, you know, with the city to again leave the door open for these things to happen over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kenneth.
Yes, thanks all.
Okay, well, I guess that concludes our meeting. Thank you all for your attendance, commentary. Great to see your smiling faces again. And we're going to be back here in February with probably an all-day long meeting. And you guys are going to love this space, I'm telling you. Okay, so I would propose, if there's no other business,
I don't think so.
then I guess we're adjourned. So have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Have a good evening. Bye bye. See you next month.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.